A new survey by Nanos finds the majority of Canadians are in support of national infrastructure projects. That's even if Indigenous nations oppose them. To break this down further, CTV's Abigail Beeman joins us now from Ottawa with the latest. Ottawa, great to see you this afternoon. Can you bring us up to speed and tell us more about the findings in this Nanos poll?
Right, so this was a Nanos survey done for CTV, and the overall headline is exactly what you said, that overall the majority of Canadians are in the mood for national infrastructure projects. The majority of Canadians support national infrastructure projects, regardless of opposition from various categories or potential opposition from various categories, and that's provincial, Indigenous opposition, as well as in the case of potential oil and gas route through the Arctic, as Manitoba has recently been musing about environmental concerns. Even if there are environmental concerns, in that case, 60% of Canadians would support a national infrastructure project through the Arctic. Going back to where I started in terms of provinces and Indigenous nations, 77% of Canadians would support national infrastructure projects, even if provinces oppose. And when it comes to Indigenous nations, 7 in 10 Canadians, 70% would support or somewhat support national infrastructure projects, even if Indigenous nations are opposed to them. So lots to process there.
Sure, lots to process. But what about the reaction that's coming in from Indigenous groups on this particular poll?
That's right. So I've reached out in quite a few places, and before deadline, did not hear back from the Assembly of First Nations or the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I did have a lengthy conversation with a group called the First Nations Major Projects Coalition, and that's a group that represents 180 First Nations members who are supportive of development, and the group aims to push back against this concept that First Nations groups oppose development, so long as that development is done with First Nations rights respected and environmental concerns respected, and with First Nations having a proper seat at the table. Taking a step back, that's what we've seen the Prime Minister talking about, all summer long. We've shown you pictures of those 3 summits that he held with various Indigenous groups over the summer, promising to listen to their concerns, and all the while talking about building a major projects office and an Indigenous Advisory Council, and having those up and running by Labor Day. So the message from the First Nations Major Projects Coalition, who I mentioned I was speaking to, was that they don't believe that Canadians are fully understanding what First Nations groups bring to the table, and that First Nations groups present an opportunity rather than a risk to development, and that First Nations group help to actually de-risk projects and attract investors if they're at the table. So an interesting perspective there. And again, the overall headline here is that regardless of opposition from various corners, Canadians are in favor of national infrastructure projects.
CTV's Abigail Beeman in Ottawa breaking it all down. Abigail, thank you for this update.